Joe Press, senior quarterback. Ken Mazik, senior split end linebacker.
Kevin Williams, senior tailback.
Bill Stone, split end safety.
Steve Kopcha, senior kicker.
John D'Onofrio, senior running back, defensive back.
Robbie Johnson, senior wide receiver, defensive back.
Mike Krager, senior outside linebacker, tight end.
Steve Daly, senior fullback, inside linebacker.
Stan Rushnack, defensive end, tight end. Senior.
Donnie DiMarzio, senior center, defensive end.
Terry Long, senior offensive guard, defensive tackle.
Chris Furby, senior tackle, outside linebacker.
Frank Taylor, senior guard, defensive end. John Taylor, senior offensive and defensive tackle.
Taglione, senior guard, middle linebacker. Kane Turner, outside linebacker, tight end. Senior.
Jim Winnick, senior outside linebacker, tight end. Travis Marcino, junior defensive back, quarterback.
Anthony Yanni, junior defensive back, running back.
Mike Mavromatis, junior wide receiver, defensive back. Erich Penna, junior defensive back, wideout. Steve Marshall, wideout, defensive back.
Mike Gibson, sophomore, junior, wide receiver, defensive back.
Jared Cottrell, junior wide receiver, defensive back.
Eric Chapano, junior running back, outside linebacker. Ken Richardson, junior fullback, outside linebacker.
Paul Wilson, junior tight end, outside linebacker.
Colin Kelly, junior, tight end, inside backer.
Jeff Welch, junior center, defensive end.
Bob Mascalino, junior, center, defensive tackle.
John Shaw, junior, offensive defensive tackle.
Rich Gautier, junior guard, inside linebacker.
Brian Wrigley, junior, guard, defensive end. Dominic Chapin, junior, defensive tackle, offensive tackle.
Mark Gustanovich, junior defensive end, guard.
Dave Stanwich, junior, offensive tackle, defensive tackle.
Sean Wentz, junior middle linebacker, tight end.
Sean Perka, junior, tight end, defensive back.
Wes Armstrong, junior tight end, defensive back.
Joe Polshaw, sophomore quarterback and wideout.
Aaron Swensick, sophomore wide receiver, defensive back.
Jason Schwartzberger, running back, defensive back, sophomore.
Fred Marilak, sophomore, outside linebacker, running back.
Scott Bloomer, sophomore, inside linebacker, running back.
Damian Kelly, sophomore, wide out, defensive back.
Brian Carter, sophomore, offensive tackle, inside linebacker.
Bill Acton, sophomore, offensive center, defensive end.
Scott Renzelli, defensive end and guard.
Mark Piro, sophomore, inside linebacker, guard.
Chris Clayton, sophomore, offensive tackle and defensive tackle.
Tim McIntyre, sophomore, offensive guard, defensive tackle.
Dan Sweeney, sophomore, defense and offensive tackle. Gabe D'Onofrio, sophomore, defensive end, offensive guard.
Joe Borka, wide receiver, defensive back, sophomore.
Mike Coleman, wide receiver and defensive back.
Anthony Israel, sophomore, tight end and outside back.
TJ Van Horn, sophomore, wide receiver, defensive back.